And apparently you spent the whole flight hanging out with Vanilla Ice. So
Yeah, Ice Ice Baby. Yeah, it was great.
cool. La, 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 la. I'm ready. I gotta find it. There we go.
You were a
Okay.
singer in your previous life. Okay.
Maybe. Hey, I was a singer when I was a kid. I was the little boy with the loaves and the fish in one of our church plays.
Oh,
I had a solo in front of the whole church.
oh,
So
so you must have a good voice. That's so good.
you're talking to a little local Hamilton, Ontario celebrity, West
Yeah.
Highland Baptist Church, circa '03 or whatever year that was.
I
Yeah.
love it.
But anyways,
Oh,
welcome back,
they're lucky to
everybody.
have
For
you.
those, yeah, they are indeed. For those listening, welcome back to another module of epic freaking content. Today, I have a very special guest, someone I've known for a month, 2 months now. We've chatted a few times about some professional work together, and we just built a relationship, built a friendship. I love her vibe. I love what she does. I'll introduce you in a second, but first, show the people your wonderful face, Laurel. Say hi.
Hi, everyone.
So Laurel is Laurel Wiers, I'll tell you say your full name. You are a powerhouse therapist with 25 years of experience specializing in trauma and human performance. Laurel is the founder of Optimal Outcome and Lighthouse Counseling. She's a TEDx speaker who has trained clinicians internationally on how to use brain science to eliminate triggers. She's the creator of the M.I.N.T method, which we shall get into very shortly, and author of Betrayed, Not Broken. Her mission is simple. Helping elite performers and entrepreneurs level up by clearing the mental roadblocks holding them back. And fun fact, in 1990, I will say that was before I was born, but you look wonderful, Laurel.
Oh, that was mean.
No, I'll cut it out. You cheered
No,
in the Aloha Bowl in Hawaii, and apparently you spent the whole flight hanging out with Vanilla Ice. So
Yeah, Ice Ice Baby. Yeah, it was great.
I had to look it up earlier, and I was like, no, I'm like 99% sure that's who I think it is, and
Mhm.
indeed it was. So
Absolutely. Yes.
that's a very good fun fact. I appreciate that.
It is. It is.
But
Claim to
otherwise,
fame.
anything else about your bio or your intro that you want to share, or does that kind of cover the main points
Oh,
there?
that was you. You make me sound like I, do a lot of things. So that was very nice.
Yeah. Oh, and sorry. And on the weekends, guys, she's also an Avenger. So catch her in Avengers Doomsday in theaters soon. No, I'm kidding. Pretty much. You're almost there. But
Oh.
let's dive in. I mentioned, Laurel, the M.I.N.T method that you've coined here. Explain to us kind of what that means, what that is, and then we can kind of flow from there.
Yeah, so M.I.N.T method stands for memory integration narrative transformation. So really the whole reason that it came out was when I was making my website about a year ago, I kept explaining the work that I did on my website to my developers with the different modalities that I use. And at that point, I was weaving together 3 different trauma modalities. And I wasn't using any of them specifically as they were intended to be used. I would use pieces of accelerated resolution therapy, pieces of EMDR, pieces of CMI. And what I started to notice was that I was doing the same pattern in my sessions all the time by taking and like copy and pasting little pieces of all these modalities. And they were all beautiful. But what I found was that why use one when all 3 of them really did everything that I needed them to do in a much more beautiful fashion than if I just used one of them? So as we were creating the website, I would say, all the 3 different modalities. And finally they were like, Laurel, could you just like come up with your own name? Wouldn't that be easier than mentioning all of these all the time? So I was like, oh, like it was weird. I almost felt like I needed someone to give me that permission to do that. And I hadn't given myself permission. I've always been very honoring of the people who've created all these modalities. And I just, for some reason, didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. But then I was like, yeah, no, this actually is my own thing. And I'm not doing their thing. So they would be mad if I said I was doing their thing. So that's how it came to be. So M.I.N.T is what I do in every session when I work with people with trauma.
I love it. Are you familiar with John Maxwell, like the author John C. Maxwell?
I actually was part of his mastermind for a year. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing.
Yep.
So
He has a group, High Capacity Leaders, and it was,
yeah.
really great where we got to be mentored by him, actually.
Amazing. Well,
Fun fact.
he signed 2 of my books, but I haven't spent that much time with him. So I guess you're cooler than me. You have that John Maxwell stamp of approval. But I remember I heard him one time on stage. He said, I'll try to do his voice. He said, "You know how to teach my material, right?" He said, "The first time you teach my material, you say, 'John Maxwell said.' The second time you teach my material, you say, 'It's been said.' And then the third time you teach my material, you say, 'You know, I've been thinking.'" And the point being is that eventually over
Yeah.
time, as you become an expert and you practice, you do now have that permission, right? To be able to create your own modalities, your own methods, your own acronyms. And so I love that you found that space into your, expertise to now really start to carve your own footprint, really, right, into this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got merchandise, so like I'm legit now.
Hey, you have a coffee mug that says Mint?
They're sweatshirts.
Hey, I
So
mean,
yeah, so when people come and do intensives with me, that's what they get to go home with.
coffee mug is where you start. Sweatshirts is where you aim to be. So you're you're at the pros right now.
I'm at luxury, Josh.
The next thing is actually to give a little baggie of those wedding mints, and that says
Oh
mint
yeah.
on the mints. That's the next.
People have gotten baskets from me before, and those have been in them. Don't you worry.
Or like after 8 chocolates, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, okay. So one of the things I think is super relevant as well, to the work that you do and even to this community. So we're kind of mostly talking to younger entrepreneurs. I was actually on a call today with a gentleman in Portugal. He's 42, so he's not young in terms of age, but he's, I mean, he's still a young pup, but he's
Yes.
but he's younger, I guess, in his entrepreneurial journey. So that's what I mean when I say young entrepreneurs. Age isn't really a factor as much as experience in this space, being independent. So that being said, entrepreneurs, high performers deal with high stress daily, and you focus on trauma and triggers. So how can my students and the folks in this community distinguish between like normal business stress, everyday kind of the stress of the high performer, versus maybe a deeper trigger that, is hijacking their nervous system, killing their productivity, something they might not even be aware of?
Oh, that's so great. So definitely there is a difference, right, between stress and triggers. And what I tend to notice with my clients when they come to see me is they notice it's a trigger, that there's something unexplainable going on when they have this pattern of repeated behavior, that when you're done with that behavior, you say, I did it again. I can't believe I did it again. Or you keep trying to problem solve, whether it's anxiety before you're going to speak or freaking out when somebody gives you criticism, that you say, okay, I'm prepared for this next time. I'm going to go into that meeting. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to handle it well. And try as you might, you do it again. You end up, going off the handle, or you end up having a panic attack. You can't give that presentation, or you cancel, call sick, whatever it is. And you start to see this repeated pattern of no matter how much I mentally prepare, no matter how many times I say I'll never do that again, you just cannot behave differently. And that shows that at that point in time, we're not dealing with a thinking brain cognitive issue. We're dealing with an issue that's somewhere in your nervous system. It's most likely tied to some moment, memory, event, interaction that happened in your life. And when you get triggered and something in your present reminds you of that past experience, you go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. So once you go in that mode, what happens is this part of our brain, the rational cognitive prefrontal cortex, it goes offline. And when it goes offline, all the things that you said you weren't going to do, it's not there to make you not do them, because you're now reacting out of your amygdala. Your nervous system is taking over and you're in fight or flight mode. So that's the difference between normal stress. Normal stress, you can say, take a breath, go back, I'm good. And you're fine. Normal stress, you can say, okay, I know that this is going to be a stressful day, so I'm going to change my schedule like this so that I can go and show up well at the meeting. And you can. But when it's a trigger, you can't prepare for it in any way that's going to change the outcome, because you're trying to deal with it basically with the wrong tool.
I'm just taking that in right now. That was actually really good. I guess I've never really thought of it like that. That was See, guys, for everyone listening to this, you think I'm creating these lessons because I want to help you guys. I'm just trying to learn from experts. I'm bumming free sessions from these people. I'm just kidding. No, but that's yeah, that's so interesting, right? Because then no matter how much you're trying to willpower your way through
Mhm,
the day, it's like if you haven't addressed those I guess the best word is triggers, then ultimately they're going to keep repeating, right? And so tell me
mhm,
this then, what is the solution? Is it
mm.
meditating and praying on your own, going for a walk in the woods? Is it working with you and people like you? Like, what have you found to be the best solution to be able to do those kind of repairs, if you will?
I'm biased, but I think that doing any of the type of treatments, therapies, or modalities or pieces of the modalities that change the way that your brain and nervous system store those memories and images, that is what's going to get you out of it. Now, some people are going to tell you meditation will work. Some people say it's breathing. I'm not saying that they don't. They're just not what I do to do it. And sometimes people will do those and they work for a time, but here's the problem. The things that focus on calming down your nervous system do just that. They calm down your nervous system, but they don't integrate the memory. If you don't do
Mm,
something to release that memory and integrate it and change the way that your brain is holding it, nothing is going to change. You will still be triggered. Maybe the meditation and the breathing will help you not maybe freak out as bad. But the problem is you still have to coach yourself through it. You still are feeling that feeling. You're feeling uncomfortable. You're having all of the signs that your nervous system is acting up. Your sympathetic nervous system is coming online. So while you can get through it and maybe save face and not freak out, you have to keep doing it. So why don't we just get rid of it once and for all and integrate the memory and integrate that event in our life through the nervous system? And the way that we do that is through, obviously, in my world, it's through therapy, it's through
mm,
EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or ART, accelerated resolution therapy, or my method, which is MINT. Now, I work with people that don't have to do therapy because if we're talking about high performers or we're talking about these entrepreneurs, I don't want them thinking like, oh, great, I have to go to therapy. I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to go to therapy. That's not the only solution. I work all the time in a coaching arena with people that is not therapeutic, but I use some of the tools from my therapeutic life as I help them integrate the memory. So they don't have necessarily PTSD. They may, but not all my clients do. All they know is that they are having a reaction to a moment in their life. And I can shift that by bringing you through a process where we remember what happened, we change the way that your brain holds it, we calm your nervous system down, we desensitize you, and sometimes we do an exercise that I've developed that's called rescue yourself. And when you rescue yourself from that moment, it's so amazing what happens. Your nervous system finally goes, thank you for seeing that moment that I've been trying to tell you about for 10 years. And when you do that and you can remove that any of the feelings with it, the triggering goes away. So
well,
that's really what I would suggest to people is when you finally can find out what you're being triggered with, to find somebody that knows how to integrate and process that memory, whether it's through coaching or therapy.
cool. So in other words, no shortcuts.
Well, I can tell you about one shortcut that if it works, great. If it doesn't, then you're in for the whole kit and caboodle. But really, what I would love if I could give people this gift today in your community, this is what I would tell them. When you find out that there's a moment that you keep reacting the same way, identify the next time it happens what's happening in your body. Now, if you don't have major complex trauma or PTSD, this is going to be easier for you. But when you feel that feeling, so let's say every time someone gives you criticism, you walk away and you start to notice, like, I get that tightness in my chest or I get that nausea in my stomach. I'm going to ask that person to sit there with that feeling and close their eyes. And with their eyes closed, as you're feeling that feeling in your body, I want you to ask this question, which is, what does this feel similar to? And the question of, when else in my life have I felt this before? Typically, when you ask that question while you're at the height of that emotion, it's going to show you something and you're going to go, oh, that can't be that. That's so silly. And it's going to give you an image or it's going to give you a memory. Now, here's the thing. Most people discount that. They're like, that is not even connected. I was like 7 years old when that happened. How can that be what's happening to me right now? Oh, no, If your brain shows it to you, that is absolutely what's happening to you. So
Mm.
when you find that moment, what's going on for most people is we don't like pain. As human beings, we are wired to not feel pain. So this moment that's painful, you're going to look away from it. You're not going to lean into it. And that's why you've never paid attention to it. So if you do the thing that feels the most opposite to what you want to do, which is when you recognize that moment, sit there with it and walk over to that version of you who lived in that moment. So let's say you were 10 years old and you did this great project at school and you brought it home and your brain showed you your dad not really attending to it or telling you how it could have been better. And you're like, oh my gosh, that felt the same way as when my boss criticized me. If you look back at that 10-year-old boy and you just say, what are you thinking and feeling right now? Like this version of you right now in the moment goes back to that earlier version of you. Ask him, what were you thinking and feeling? And if you just sit there for a moment and listen, you might be surprised what you hear. And that little version of you is going to say something like, I'm not enough. I'm not seen. I always get it wrong. And then you look at that version of yourself and you say, what did he or she need in that moment? And then you, this adult version of you, go over to that version and see if you can give that to them. And it's amazing what happens if you just say, you are enough. I see you. I see what that was like for you. I see the pain that you felt in that moment. I know how you felt like you weren't enough when your dad said that to you. And sometimes it sounds so crazy, but people be like, he just needs a hug. And you metaphorically, like in your mind, go up and hug that little version and are like, I gotcha. Like, I see that. But then you do this final thing, which is you say, you extend your hand out and say, do you want to get out of here? Would you like to come with me and see what my life looks like now? And you'll be surprised that little version's like, yeah, giddy up, let's get out of here. And you take that version and you're like, this is our life now. We're no longer in that space. There is so much relief that comes from just that small, small exercise. Now, that is like a minuscule piece of like all the work that I do with people with trauma, but that is one of the most impactful exercises that I can bring people through, because sometimes that exercise in and of itself is enough to say, emotion acknowledged. Because we sit there and we feel it with that little kid, we've released it from our nervous system. And now we've given that child what they need, or that part of us that was hurt. And we say, come with me. And we tell them, we're not in that moment anymore. And your nervous system goes, operating system updated.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to address two things that everyone's thinking right now. Number one, yes, I will tell you guys how to follow Laurel and get in touch with her and follow her content. And number two, please tell us, Laurel, when you are narrating audiobooks, because by this whole practice, I'm like, I need to listen to books that you narrate. So,
oh my gosh, it's so funny that you said that. So I gave a keynote a year ago. And at the end of the keynote, the MC came up and he said almost the same thing, Josh. He was like, can you be my audio at night to help me calm down before I go to bed? He was like, that would be wonderful. So you're the second person who said that. That's so funny.
I'll have to get in touch with my people at 𝐝𝐤𝐯, that app, that sleep app.
Right,
and then,
right.
We'll set you up to read some bedtime stories.
But okay, but this is bad. This means I'm putting people to sleep, Josh.
No.
That's not good.
You have a very, very calming, therapeutic voice. It's probably the best way I can explain it. Your voice makes.
Thank you.
I feel safe at home and cared for just in the tonality of your voice, and that's a special skill that I think has been learned and is also probably a natural gifting you have to make people feel truly heard and seen and loved, even just in the intonation of your voice. So anyways, if you guys want to hire Laurel, she's on, her voice is on sale for how much are you charging per hour now? $5.99?
I know, but yeah.
So anyways, thank you for that. That was actually wonderful. And I love practicality in these lessons as well. Like, what can people take home? What's a practice or lesson they can do? And of course, I asked the shortcut question because of course there's no shortcuts in anything with your healing, with your entrepreneurial journey. And so, if you guys are listening to this and you want to work with Laurel or people like her, again, I'll drop her contact info below. And if you can't work with her directly, I'm sure, Laurel, you probably point people in the right direction if you're not able to take them on as your own client, for example. But
Mhm.
I got a few more questions here. We'll dive in because you're on a roll. I want to keep the roll going here. So, a huge killer of entrepreneurial momentum is rumination. Replaying a bad call, a lost deal over and over and over. And from your expertise in memory can't even say this word, reconsolidation. I wrote it, but I can't even
Mhm.
read it.
Mhm.
How can we interrupt the circuit so a bad day doesn't turn into a bad month, a bad year, and we don't just keep letting that, bad sales call ruin the next 50 calls or,
Mhm. Mhm.
whatever the context may be. In this case, we're talking
Yep.
entrepreneurship, so seems to fit.
Mhm. So that goes back to, so we're talking about the memory reconsolidation, which is the rumination piece, which means that the memory hasn't been integrated yet and processed yet. So typically when we keep looping around things, what's happening is that your nervous system says there's more information here that needs to be gained. Either we need to pay attention to it, we need to get the information out of it, or we just need to be desensitized to it. So the looping piece, I would say, is like, we're not landing the plane. We just keep going back in it because your system is on alert. Like, I don't want to feel this way again. So that goes back to even the work that I do with people, which is when I say, find somebody that can help you do memory integration and memory processing. And what happens with that is you have to, in some ways, watch that bad deal in your mind's eye, experience it. And just like I said before with that earlier self piece, you have to allow yourself to feel that. Revisit that moment that it went really bad. And sometimes by just revisiting that and allowing yourself to honor and acknowledge the pain of what happened in it, then you can say, okay, now, how do I wish that had gone? If you tell yourself to do that before you honor and acknowledge the pain of what happened, it won't take. It's in the remembering of the memory that we actually make it unstable. So research has shown that when we recall a memory, it's actually recalled differently every time. So every time you recall a memory and it goes back in your brain into storage, you actually synthesize different proteins, which means that the next time the memory is called forward, it's actually different than the one that you called forward, than the one that you called forward, than the one that you called forward.
It's like brain
So
telephone.
yeah, exactly. It just changes a little bit. And that's why it's so hard when you have trials and you have eyewitness people that you
Mm.
can't trust their memory, because this is what the memory does. It's encoded in different parts of the brain and it changes as it goes there. And so when you have something bad that happened, what you need to do is not worry so much about the detail of it, but really what the emotional element is with it. And so if they want to be able to land the plane on the rumination, you're going to have to spend some time really acknowledging what you went through. And then once you do that, your body's like, okay, now you can breathe. And you can be like, okay, what do I wish was different about it? Now, obviously, it's more complicated than that. And I don't want everyone to think they have to go to therapy to do it, but it is actually a process that you need to combine bilateral stimulation and recalling a memory to access that memory reprocessing and using what's called the window of reconsolidation. And what that means is that our memories are actually fragile and unstable while we're remembering. So while we remember something, we can actually change that memory just because we've remembered it. What that does is that opens up this window of reconsolidation, meaning that while that memory is fragile, we can tweak it, we can mess with it. So if we can honor that feeling and we can process out the negative emotion or sensation with it, and then we can start to think of like, what do I wish was different? In that, in the next 6 hours, your brain can hold on to that. And then when it closes, that's what it's going to remember. Now, you'll never forget the facts about it, but your brain will automatically start to go back to the images that you connected with that memory when you redid it. So if you saw yourself, let's say, flying off a bike, and it was this really bad memory and you keep remembering it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that was really painful for me. And you remember it. But then you say, I wish I had gone that day and I didn't fall off the bike. I wish I'd taken a different road that didn't have the pothole and I didn't fall off of it. And you could see that and play that with your eyes closed in your mind's eye, and actually even like do a little bit of tapping while you do it. You might be surprised the next time you recall it after you wake up the next day, what you see. You might see the new image.
Wow. Dang, this stuff is so crazy. Because you got me thinking now too, even in my own personal life, like just for an example, right? I tend to hold on to very positive memories of very dark times. So if I think of an
Yep.
ex that, well, anyways, she's not going to listen to this. My ex,
Mhm.
losing her and the pain and the length of time it took. Heck, I'm still kind of healing from that, and it was quite a while ago now. But
Mhm.
when I think of her, it's only just fond, beautiful moments that I've never shared with anybody, and it was a love I've never experienced before. But if I
Mhm.
think logically about how it ended and how she treated me, it's like
Mhm.
anyone I've told this to, just on a pure like logical basis, they're like, "Oh my God, you don't deserve that kind of treatment. That she treated you terribly," or whatever. Not that I was perfect, of course,
Mhm.
you know, but
Mhm.
I remember how much I
Yep.
loved her and the beautiful things. And my
Mhm.
brain has like settled on that feeling. So when I think of her,
Mhm.
it actually makes me happy and then kind of sad because
That's
then I
good.
miss those
Oh.
beautiful things. But
Uh-huh.
whereas some people they'll think of their ex and immediately they just get pissed off because they hate that person
Yep.
because all they remember is the
Mhm.
bad. And this is
Yep.
a pattern for me for everyone and
Mhm.
everything. I'll even text people
Wow.
years later and I'll be, "Hey man, how are you?" And they'll be like, "What the like, what are you texting me for?" I'm like, "I don't know, dude. It's been a while. How are you?" They're like, "Don't you remember how things ended?" I'm like, "No, actually. I just
Wow.
remember we got Slurpees one time in,
Mhm.
grade 10." So this is a
That's
pattern
actually
for my brain.
super interesting. This is probably not a good thing to talk to me about on something like that because I'm like, ooh, let's go dive in and talk about that, but, which we won't do. But you are rare, Josh. Do you know this? This
I
is
mean,
not how most
I
people
know it in
are.
some other ways, but
Yeah. But this pattern of yours is not normative. It's not most human beings
Mm.
are not wired that way because we remember the bad because that's how our brain protects us from repeating it. So what's interesting with you is you actually aren't doing that. So, right, if you think about evolution, you'd get swallowed up by an alligator because you would forget that they're dangerous. Right. But just to show you, like, that's not how we are wired. So I think
Sure.
it's a gift that you have that because it keeps you from getting stuck and looping in the bad. But
Yeah.
most people, their brain does not work like that.
Yeah. I will say it's definitely been a contributing factor to creating this connector identity, being somebody that
Mhm.
people feel genuinely, they can connect with me very easily. I always say, I trust you until you show me I can't. Whereas most
Mhm.
people are of the mindset,
Mhm.
show me why I should trust you. And I realize
Mhm.
that if I ever
Mhm.
want to truly
Mhm.
connect with people and break down barriers fast, then I need to be
Mhm.
able to give of myself and be willing to be almost taken advantage of. And I think that
Mm.
takes someone who's also developed an emotional and mental maturity to handle the rejection, because I probably do
Mm.
get rejected more than most people, but because I know I can
Mm.
handle that, whether it's friendship or love or whatever, I'm also
Mhm.
now willing
Mhm.
to meet more people and willing to put myself out there. So I'm very
Mm.
self-aware of this as well. And so I
Yeah.
would say I snip people very quickly. So
Okay.
I definitely let people in and I remember the good, but I'm also
Yep.
very quick to move on when I see the red flags and I see the betrayal. So,
Okay, good. So you're self-protective in that sense. Like, I will trust you, but the first time that I see a red flag, I'm going to be like, we're good.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Unless there's good
Well, good.
reasoning. I'm always
I
willing
am
to listen.
glad to hear that. You've made me feel a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, good. So in our session later, one-on-one, we'll do a
Yeah.
deep dive.
Mhm.
But no, that's and I was going to ask you as well, to going on what we were talking about, because you mentioned bringing in, I forget the word you used, not trusted
Bilateral
advisor.
stimulation. Oh, sorry.
No, so something about bringing on a trusted person, but I'll kind of vocalize my question, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So when it comes to replaying those, let's, for example, a bad sales call, I teach people even in my community, like, if you're actually a sales guy and you're
Mhm.
rewatching your note taker, Fathom or
Mhm.
Otter or whatever, you're rewatching your
Mhm.
call. Well, if you're new and you're just building up your legs in sales or in whatever the game is, you don't even know what to look for in the call when you're replaying it.
Mhm.
So you need
Mhm.
to bring on, your sales manager. You need to bring on a mentor or a coach, because you don't even know what to look for that you did wrong. And so
Right.
I'd love to know your thoughts too on that, of not just ruminating by yourself and then learning and moving on, but bringing in that trusted advisor, someone that has your best interests at heart, a mentor of some
Mhm.
kind, to then help you
Mhm.
move forward in that process.
Oh, when it comes to that type of process, right? So that would be different than rumination. That's just really, right? It's smart to be able to say, like,
Yeah.
I obviously am new at this. I don't know what I'm doing. So, yeah, we always want to have people outside of us who can speak into our situation, who walked that path before us, and yeah, help us alert to things that we didn't know existed in the first place. So that would be different, right? You're not ruminatory, but you're just looking at things through a different lens and maybe seeing things that you are blindsided to as well because of who knows past life experiences, right? For someone
Yeah.
like you, like, that was a great call. What do you mean something was bad about that? Or, you might have needed somebody to be like, no, when they do that, that's actually not a good thing, Josh. you know? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been there, and I realized too, years of doing different types of calls and communication, building teams. Like, there's even cultural differences that even small things, like me living in Southern Ontario in Canada and
Mm-hmm.
such living in, I don't know, rural Texas. Like, we're still in the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
same culture overall, but there might be slight shifts in the way that you
Mm-hmm.
address me that I consider rude, you consider normal.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking other countries, other like
Mm-hmm.
actual cultures. So it's
Yeah.
finding the nuance in these things as well, and seeking wise counsel, I think, is very
Mm-hmm.
important to not be on your own in the journey, essentially.
No. Yeah,
But
never.
that being said, maybe what time is it? Oh, okay, we've been going for 30 minutes. I love it. It's all been solid. If you don't mind, I got one more question for you, and then we can call it a day here. But the one of the if I can get it out, one of the things that is kind of on the line of what we've already been talking about is being untriggerable, being unoffendable, right? So, having spent 25 years helping people eliminate triggers, is the ability to become and stay untriggerable, is it a talent you're born with? Is it a skill that we can develop? Is that is that just a fantasy? Like, you'll always be triggered by something. You'll never be immune to everything. Yeah, talk to me about that, maybe innateness or the learned ability
Mm-hmm.
on that.
Right. Well, I think innately we are all triggerable. It's again self-preservation. If we cannot develop the ability to scan our environment and attach it to our library of experience and know that something's safe or not safe, we're going to die. We're not going to, thrive in our workplace or whatever's going on if we can't start looking and making connections between things. So I think it's part of how we're created. It's our nervous system. I mean, clearly that we're designed in such a way that we should be triggered. However, some people naturally, and I'll challenge that in a minute, are more triggered. I don't think it's that you're born that way or not. It's what have you experienced in your life. So, right, there's these ACEs scores that people get from the ACEs study that says, if you've been someone who's had abuse, if you're somebody who had neglect, if you grew up in a home with an alcoholic parent or anything like that, right? There's this whole list of things that you could have been exposed to. You are more likely to be somebody that's probably going to have more triggers because you've had more trauma. You've had more things happen. Your nervous system has been dysregulated a heck of a lot more. So when people start to collect more of these moments in life that make you more susceptible, you're going to find those people, if they haven't worked through it, they're going to be triggered a lot more than somebody that grew up in a more stable situation. So you may have an entrepreneur that feels a little more like you have to walk on eggshells around him, right? Because
Mm,
he gets upset very easily about things, or you find, it's a boss that you work for, whatever you're doing. That's probably somebody who's had a lot of things happen in their life. So they're just going to have more triggers because it's like your nervous system, it piles these things up. And as it feels more threat, it's looking for more threat. So that's just going to make you that way. I don't think that we ever want to get to the point that we're not triggered, because if so, it would be like saying, well, I don't want to remember when I got burnt by that fire so that I can be by fire and not let it burn me. Like, we have to keep certain things in our system so that we don't repeat mistakes again. But
hmm,
I think that you can learn what it's like to be triggered, and then you can deal with them in a way so that they don't pile up. So I think the goal is for people to recognize, okay, what am I doing when I'm triggered, right? You're reacting in an extreme way to a circumstance that the other 9 people, if there's 10 of you in a room, are not doing. And so if you can recognize, oh, that was a little over the top, or I got a lot more emotional about that than I should have. That's the number one thing. Okay, so obviously I'm triggered. If you can do that, that's great. And then the second step would be, how do you start clearing these things out through your entrepreneurial journey so that you're not gathering them up, so that you don't have a bunch of things then that are kind of getting in your way the further that you get along in your process. So if you can just make a goal to recognize it and then do some of the things we talked about, why is this happening? Where is this coming from? And work through it. It's almost like you're clearing off your windshield all the time, right? As you drive through
mm,
life, you're getting bugs on it. This just happened. You're getting dirt, you're getting dust, you're getting mud. But if you can take that windshield wiper and be like, okay, it's time to clean it, It's going to happen again, but we might as well clean as we go rather than have a caked on windshield by the time we get to our destination. And so by the time you get where you want to in your journey of the business that you have, you don't want to have so much going on that when you hit that, you will have lack of creativity, clarity at that point, and you're actually burnt out because what you've been doing has been managing all this stuff this entire time you've been on your journey rather than dealing with it little by little. And I see that all the time because most of my clientele at this point, they are entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, doctors, lawyers that are in their 50s, 40s and 50 years old. And what's happened is that very thing. They've had this build up, build up, build up, build up. And all of a sudden they're like, I am exhausted. I have built this huge empire. I have this great business, this great practice, and my health is a mess. My relationships are a mess, or my business is not thriving anymore because suddenly you hit this point that the cost of managing is way too much. And that's the thing. Most people who are high performers are amazing managers. They are resilient people. They know how to compartmentalize. They know how to not address things. But when you do that over time, it catches up with you. So I would say, again, the goal is not to be untriggerable, but do you know and have a system to process it so that way you are in your clearest, most grounded version of yourself?
I love your analogies. They're so good. Like, I just cleaned my mom's windshield recently on her car with a special thing I bought on Amazon. And it literally, it made it like, all the cake of the waxes and the oils and the bugs. And especially when it's raining and it's cold and you're trying to do the wipers, but it's all foggy and gross. Looks like fingerprints, but it's on the outside. So that's the visual I just got when you said that.
Yeah.
Damn, that's so good. And, because you always hear this, and as an entrepreneur, you have to be unoffendable. You have to be unoffendable. And it's like, yes, but you also don't want to be so cold that now you just can't also connect. You can't be empathetic. You can't. And so I think some people take it's one extreme or the other, right? It's like, I'm offended by everything, so you can't talk to me because everyone's walking on ice. Or I'm not offended by anything, but you're also a brick wall of emotion with no connection ability. So...
And when you say that, what my head automatically interprets is it's not the goal to be unoffendable. It's to not be so reactive when the offense happens. That's what triggers are just your reaction to a human emotion. We humanly should be offended. Things are offensive. But a person who has a clear and clean nervous system, their reaction is going to show where they're at with that. If you react in an appropriate way, you can feel offense and react appropriately. Or if you're not dealing with your stuff, you're going to feel an offense and completely freak out because that current offense is tied to something else that happened in your life. And that's what was triggered by that offensive comment. So I say it's really in the reaction that we have and less about not feeling the emotion at all.
Okay, so for the last few minutes here, guys, Laurel's going to try to offend me, her best to her ability, and then assess my reaction. So, if you want to call me Harry, if you want to, no, I'm just kidding. What did I hear as a kid? Pinocchio, Dumbo. Come on, give it to me. No, I'm just teasing. But no, seriously, Laurel, thank you so much. I know we've gone over time a bit. I appreciate your time very much. Please tell everybody, where can they find you, keep in touch with your work, follow you. For those that maybe are, potential clients for you or maybe for your colleagues, how can they get in touch? Floor is yours for the next couple minutes.
Sure. Well, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, a little bit on LinkedIn, but mostly you can go to my website if you want to learn about the work that I do. And that's my name, laurelwiers.com, WIERS, laurelwiers.com. And on there's actually a contact form. And if you are curious about working with me, I do a 20-minute consult for free where we talk about what it is that you're wanting. And I can see if we're a good fit. And if what you need and what I do line up, then we can take the conversation from there.
Cool. I love it. Thank you. And for everyone listening, obviously don't waste Laurel's time on these calls. Only if you're serious, book a consult. But, and if you use code Josh15, you'll get nothing. You'll still get just the consult with Laurel, because that's more than enough for you greedy people in the comments. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I'll drop everything below. So expect some followers. Laurel, thank you. Appreciate you. We'll have to do this again, hopefully soon, maybe even do a deeper dive on some of these topics and flow into some other stuff. But Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you. Thank you for
I'll see,
sharing.
of course, I'll see you guys in the next one.